no.
Ocho Cinco, was he a quarterback?
Your ass better call somebody.
He's gone for the touchdown. Caldwell Pope. How about that one, baby?
It's Sports Entertainment today.
How did he win this game?
I hope this is bleach.
Take the hoop out of the playbook, please.
What's going on, guys? Talking about C&Bsports. I'm Bryson.
And I'm Chris. We're doing our new edition of a podcast, College Football Weekly Matchup, going to be on Apple Podcasts and YouTube. Getting ready for the college football season. Preston, are you ready for the college football season starting up in a couple weeks?
I am ready. It can't get here quick enough. I'm just ready for it to get started. I'm ready for Clemson football. I'm ready for Alabama football. I'm ready for the big matchups, the playoffs. I'm already ready for it, already here now.
So you're a Clemson fan. Bryson, you're a Florida fan. What's your thoughts on the season, and are you ready for the start of the season in a couple weeks?
Yeah, I'm excited. Hopefully our defense can make a bounce back this year. I'm ready to see what Texas and Oklahoma is going to do in the SEC. My opinion, I don't think they're going to do that well. Like Spurrier said, if you're going to struggle in the Big Ten, you can come struggle in the SEC. It doesn't matter. But I'm ready. So
yeah, they're moving in the SEC here. When is it? They're not moving in this year, are they?
2025.
2025. So they're moving into 2025. What's your guys' thoughts on that, Preston? Your team's in the ACC, but what's your thoughts on some teams moving into the SEC?
I think it's a good move for them. I also think it's a great move for the SEC. I mean, it expands them. They were already in Texas, but Texas is like the college football hub of the world. I mean, it really is, because for a very long time, Texas football, is the best football, even though they don't have that many national championships to show for it. High school football is in the hub of Texas. I mean, that's just where football is football. That's just where, if you think of football, you think of Texan people playing in their backyards in their boots. For Oklahoma, I think it's great. I think Oklahoma matches up really well with a lot of the SEC teams. I think they just got to do a little more tweaking. They got to get bigger players for the offensive and defensive lines. But on the skill players, they have it ready to go to compete for national championships already. So I don't see it being as too much of an issue. I mean, they're yet to win a playoff game, but a lot of that just comes to being they're not really that good at the end of the season, or they're just playing better teams. Out of the last 15 national championships, 11 of them have been in the SEC, and then 4 of them have been outside of the SEC. So I think this is a great move for them. Boosts up their money as well. And then with SEC, they're also going to get a lot more money as well, because Texas brings its own Texas Longhorn channel, and that brings a lot of money, and that's very good for the SEC teams. I mean, they're already getting $30 million a year just in broadcasting money from CBS and all these other local channels that are covering their games. Bring Texas in, it probably boosts it up even more. I mean, you're adding 2 great historic programs. Excited for it. I think it's going to be a really good matchup for all of them.
What about, I know they're adding Texas and Oklahoma. What about the rumors, maybe Clemson and Florida State, I have heard in the last month?
I don't believe that it's going to end up happening. I think the ACC is going to probably keep to its own. ACC, even though it's down, it's not struggling. It signed a pretty bad deal with the ESPN. I mean, they got hosed on it. I mean, they're getting a lot of money, but it's not SEC money. I think it's about half of what the SEC is bringing. I think initial reports of what I was looking at yesterday, ESPN reported that the Pac-12, the Big Ten, and the ACC were, in very, very early talks about having like kind of not like a merger, but like they were going to work together and kind of just have like interconference schedules where each team was going to play different Pac-12, Big Ten schemes. And from that, I believe the Big 12 is either going to get poached off in the different divisions unless, things happen. But I think the chances are very low that the ACC is going to lose Florida State and Clemson, 2 of the biggest breadwinners right now. Even though Florida State's down, they're in a huge market in Tallahassee, and they've still got Florida. I mean, look at their rosters up and down. I mean, they're extremely stacked. They've got a lot of skill players. I mean, they're just bad just because, nobody's there, as a leader. Nobody stepped up. I give it a couple more years. I mean, they're still recruiting in the top 15 every year. So I don't think they leave the ACC. If either of those teams leave, it's going to be Florida State, just because it's a money school. And I think they would take the money, but for Clemson, there's no reason for them to leave. I mean, we're, competing for national championships year in and year out for the last 7 years. What's the point? What do we get more for leaving besides money? Because money, they've got money.
Yeah, Bryson, what's your thoughts on Texas and Oklahoma possibly moving in, and maybe Florida State?
I mean, I like the move. Like Preston. I mean, Preston pretty much hit it all on everything, more revenue, more everything. I mean, and kind of like we've been seeing the same like competition. The past couple of years, it's kind of see some new teams come in. See, this what I was like about the different conferences is we all have different opinions, which Preston probably leads, hit ACC, is the strongest conference. I believe, SEC is the strongest conference. Well, you bring these big, Big Tens and these ACC teams in, they like battle the conferences. That's what I like. You got to see like where the competition's at.
You think this is going to make Texas and Oklahoma struggle a lot more? Or?
I believe so.
Gotcha.
I believe so.
Gotcha. Well, we're about to get to the start of the season. What's your thoughts before we get into that? What's your thoughts, on the playoffs going to 12, Bryson?
Love it. Love the idea. I love. It's kind of like college basketball. I would love to hear like a Cinderella story. Have like a little no-name school or a team on a
UCF?
top four. Yeah. Okay. A team on the outside looking in. I think the top five of that should be the five major conference winners should be automatically locked, and then go from rankings from then. What y'all think about that?
Yeah, what you think, Preston, about them moving to 12? I personally myself, I like it. I'm tired of seeing 4 teams. I want to see at least 8. I personally like the decision. What's your thoughts, Preston?
My thoughts is it's a bad idea. It's a bad idea from the very beginning. The only reason they're expanding is not for Cinderella teams. It's not for, better competition, more games. It's got nothing to do with that. First off, it's all to do with advertising and money. They want more games. They want to be able to show different things. They want to go to different cities, rake in more TV deals. It's a bad idea.
But I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop.
I'm the reason why.
Let me stop you real quick. So what about for teams like Clemson that plays nobody, no offense some of the times, and they play nobody, and they go in and they get to play, 2 tough games in the season, and that's in the playoff. Why is they should have to build a better resume to be a national champion?
Yeah, they should have to be able to build a better resume, but as it's built now, they don't have to. They've built it over the last couple of years. Their resume is not this past season. It's the last 5 years. And when the committee comes together and they're looking at it, determining who's the best 4 teams, they're not supposed to look at the past season, but now they are because, the last 5 years, who's been the most dominant team? The last 15 years, Alabama. Okay. So they have one hiccup, but they know they're going to be, and that's like in week 6. What happens in week 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12? We know they're going to be competitive. We know they're going to be good. So we might give them a nod over like a Coastal Carolina or a BYU or a UCF where, they're good, but they haven't really played anybody. Who would we rather see in a big time matchup between Oklahoma and the national championship playoff? Would you rather see Oklahoma UCF or Oklahoma, Alabama in the Orange Bowl or in the Rose Bowl? Who brings more money? Who brings more excitement? Who brings the bigger lights? And it's always going to be an Alabama over a smaller school. It's always going to be a Clemson over a smaller school. And that's just because they've built it up over the last 5 years. Their resume speaks for itself. Now, it doesn't always, go well for those teams that go into the playoffs, but most often than not, it does. What happens when Clemson plays in the playoffs? More often than not, they've won. We've won more than we've lost in the playoffs. We're 2-2 for national championships. We're 2 for 3 for national championships, and we're I think 3-3 in the playoffs in the first round, or 3-2. It's something like that. But when it gets to those points, those teams are going to win. Now, going back to my original point, it's a bad point for the playoffs because what happens in the playoffs already now when there's 2 playoff games? Half of them are good, and half of them are not so good. Like the only good playoff round, the best playoff games that I've seen so far was 2016, 15, 16, and 17, if I'm not mistaken. In 15, when the 34 or whatever it was, when Alabama beat Clemson in Arizona. The next best game, or one of the best games, was when Clemson won in a walk-off versus Alabama in the end zone for Hunter Renfrow. And one of the third best games that I've seen, not in that order, was Georgia and Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl. Okay, what happened in the rest of those games? Absolute blowouts. A couple years ago when LSU was in the playoffs, best team in the football that year. What happened? They blew out Oklahoma like it was nothing. They beat Clemson easily. Okay, past year, Ohio State blew out Clemson. Okay, and then it was an okay national championship, but Alabama was far ahead of everybody else, and they kind of blew out Ohio State. And then you've got teams like when Clemson blew out Notre Dame. I mean, half of the games are good, half of them are not. So why do we want to expand it just for money when we know half of them already, when there's 2, are not good? So you're just going to see more blowouts. I don't think that you're going to see a Cinderella team in this format.
What about those
UCF's not going to beat Alabama at the postseason when they're ready to go.
So you don't think those teams that like UCF or anyone else should get a chance to be in the Final Four?
No,
Well, I
because
guess
I love
Final
it.
Eight
Trust
now
me, I
or
really do
12.
love the idea of it. But baseball and basketball are different than football. The bigger guy is usually going to win if he's more athletic and he actually wants to be there. In baseball,
Yeah.
it's not skill or it's not luck, it's skill. But in football, it's different. And I don't think UCF thinking, oh, we can do it, can actually do it versus Alabama, who we're going to do it. They're not half of them aren't like, oh, I'm just here to get a paycheck. Half of them or all of them 100% are committed. They're trying to win this game. So I don't think that there's going to be a UCF, like Cinderella story or Coastal Carolina. You put them in the playoffs, and I promise you that the idea is going to get squashed in the first year when they get blown out in the first round. And I'm not also saying the other matchup for Big 12, Big 10, ACC, SEC schools is going to be a blowout as well. Just half of them are good, half of them are not. Because at the end of the season, there's typically only one or two teams that are really good enough to compete for a national championship, regardless of what their record is. And you usually know which ones those are.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you made some good points. So what's your thoughts, Bryson, getting ready for the season? Let's get into the regular season coming up here soon. What's your thoughts? What are you excited for this upcoming season?
I mean, it's college football. What else can I say? I mean, it's the best sport in the world. Ain't nothing better, waking up on Saturday, watching college game day from 9 o'clock to, midnight, watching any game, I'm really excited for us this season. We got Emory Jones in the backfield this year. Kind of more like a Tebow style, spread quarterback. So, I mean, our defense, that's the really thing I'm really worried about because last year our defense was not good at all. But hopefully, things can come around. But like I said, I'm really excited to see what Emory Jones is going to do in the backfield.
Gotcha. Preston, what are you excited for this season?
I'm just excited for the out-of-conference games, like week 1 when you got Clemson, Georgia, and I think like week 4 or 5, you got Ohio State hosting Oregon. I mean, there's just a lot of really good games. I'm also really excited to kind of hopefully see football back to normal. I mean, I know we're still living in the COVID area, and it's not over yet. It's still a thing that we're dealing with, but it's better to see the players at full built stadiums where there's 100% capacity, and then you got people tailgating outside. It breathes of fresh air, or however you say it. I don't know how apparently I'm saying it wrong. It doesn't sound right, but it's fresh. It's good to have it back again. It's kind of, getting back to normal. I'm ready for, just Saturdays of just from, like he said, like 9 a.m. to midnight, if not later, with the Pac-12 schools out west, seeing football all day, some of the best athletes. I mean, I'm just ready for it. It's just, it's a great thing to have going for us again.
Gotcha. So, we got a look at the top 25 that, we want to – that are some surprises and, some moves that people may not agree with. You guys take a look at the top 25 and, what's your thoughts on the top 25 and any surprises that you see? Preston or Bryson, either one of you guys want to answer.
The very first one has got to be UNC. I mean – they're good, but I don't think they're top 10 good. I mean, it's preseason poll, so I'm not really going to put too much weight into that. I mean, Iowa State, I would say is, maybe deserving of a top 10 preseason because, it really doesn't affect anything because after week 1, we're going to know who's real and who's not. But as of right now, looking at it, I don't really see a lot of big things that I'm like, oh my God, that team is so overrated or underrated and everything. I think it's good. I think the top 5 are good. Top 10 looks good. Cincinnati, I think Cincinnati is going to be really good this season. Now, there's a team looking on the outside, looking in to get in the playoffs. Put my name on it now. Cincinnati is that team. They are wanting to get into the playoffs. They are wanting to prove themselves. I mean, they almost did it to Georgia last year in the Peach Bowl. That team right now at 10, I think that's perfect for them because they're only going to go up.
I have to disagree with the team coming in 14. It's USC. Every year they're in the top 15. Every year, and more likely at the end of the year they're going to be out of it. I don't understand how they make it every single year so good in the preseason polls. I don't understand that. And at the end of the year they're just
they're usually
not even competition, but. Last year I think they went 6-1, if I'm not mistaken. And I mean, it could be a change of the program, but I just don't agree with that with them at 14.
Yeah, they're usually ranked even higher, and I've never been a big USC believer in a long time since They were really good way back when. But so no surprises, you guys. Any sleeper teams you guys think to get into the top 4 this season, or maybe in the top 10? Preston?
Well, like I said, I don't really think they're a sleeper at 10. I think they're going to put it on full blast. I mean, they're going to try and do it. I don't really believe they're going to be able to do it because I think at the end of the season, you're going to have other teams with just a little bit more on their resume, or just teams that are, they're just a little bit better. They have better players, and they bring a little more to the table. But I think that if you're going to have a team that's going to try and do it this year, it's going to be Cincinnati at 10 right now. The problem with them is if they play somebody and they have a good win, and say Florida beats like LSU in a primetime ranked matchup, even though they're below and they both won, I could see Florida getting the nod and jumping up in the standings a little bit. But I don't see anything on here right now besides that. I mean, I don't see it. I don't think there's a sleeper on my board, but obviously there's going to be one somewhere. I just can't see it as of now.
Gotcha. Bryson, you got any sleepers on there that you see that could get in the top 10 or top 4, maybe seen at the end of the season?
Like I got impressed from Cincinnati. Like, I actually went to the Peach Bowl game, and that was, an awesome game to go to. But they're a good, not sleeper, but I think they're going to make a great run. Like I said, on the outside looking in for sure. I mean, Miami's, they got a big talk this year. I don't think they're all that. I mean, they're facing Alabama, game 1, so that's going to be a good testament. But besides that, I mean, I really don't see anybody else really.
What about Oregon? What about Oregon? They haven't been in, great in a while. I don't know how they too much looked last season. You guys are more in the college football side, but why are they so high this season? At number 12. I didn't. Last season, they win? Did they win the Pac-12? Did they win their conference last season, Preston?
They won the Pac-12 for the 3rd time in a row. Yeah, they won it all. They won the Pac-12 championship in the shortened Pac-12 regular season. I think that's probably why they're high as they are. I mean, they do have good players. I don't think, if I was to predict them right now, I'd say 9-3. I mean, I think they're a good team, but this is about where they're probably going to finish at the end of the season, I believe. About around 10-12.
Gotcha. Well, let's take a look at some of the matchups coming up this season. You got a lot of big matchups this season, a lot of high-ranked teams playing each other, including week 1. We're just going to go through some of the top matchups, and I'm going to say, which one are you guys most excited to see? You guys don't have to go in detail of all of them. I'll just go through some of them, and we'll see which ones you guys are most excited to see. So you got week 1, Georgia, Clemson.
I mean, that just speaks for itself right there.
Obviously, we'll go into it. I'm going to mention all of them. So you got Georgia, Clemson.
Old-fashioned backyard rivalry.
Yeah. Georgia, Clemson, Oregon, Ohio State. I think that's week 1 or 2. Week 3, you got Alabama, Florida. Week 3, you also got Auburn, Penn State. Week 4, Notre Dame, Wisconsin. You got a lot again. Auburn, Georgia play each other every year. So you got them, Oklahoma, Texas, of course. LSU, Alabama, Iowa State, Texas. Iowa State's looking good this season, ranked high this season. They looked decent last season. Texas, is ranked in the top 20. Iowa State, Oklahoma. Iowa State's got a pretty tough schedule. Ohio State, Michigan, of course, they always play each other. A&M, LSU. LSU's not as good as what they used to be, but they're ranked and should be a good game. Any games you guys see there, or any other games you see on the season? That's a big matchup or whatnot. And what's your thoughts on that?
Well, I'm ready for week 1. I'm ready to see Clemson and Georgia play. Every time they play is always a great game. But I mean, what's y'all's prediction on that game?
I mean, I'm hoping Georgia wins. I'm a Georgia fan. I'm the only Georgia fan here, so I don't really have. I mean, I don't know about a prediction. I mean, I'm a big fan of JT Daniels. A lot of people's not, but I'm hoping Georgia pulls it out. What's your thoughts, Preston?
Do you have a second? Because I have a couple thoughts on this game.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's going to be a game that's going to come down to the line. I think it's going to be an offensive defensive line matchup, and who prevails? Does offensive line for Clemson, do they hold enough for DJ Uiagalelei? That's how you say his name, DJ Uiagalelei, for people who don't know how to say it. Is the line held up enough for him to be able to do his job and throw the ball with precision like he can do? He torched Boston College and Notre Dame last year, so he's got arm. He also has a little sneaky speed to him. But can the line hold him They were very average last year for Clemson standards, for national powerhouse standards, like very average last year. If they can hold up and do their job, he's going to have a really good chance to get after him. Now, Georgia's defensive line. Now, Georgia has a better overall defense than Clemson does, but Clemson has 10 of 11 starters coming back this year. So they're going to be really good. They played together for a while. They're going to know how to do it. They're going to have the experience, and they've been there before, so they're going to be able to do it. So it's not an offensive or defensive thing. It's line matchup. Can offensive line for Clemson hold up versus Georgia? If they can, I will say as of now, I believe Clemson would win. How much of that has got to do with that? I'm a huge Clemson fan, and I think they're going to win every game. Probably a lot of it. Can't lie. I'm not ready to give a prediction on like a score or anything yet, just because I haven't really, sat down and like really kind of looked at where I think it's going to be the things. But that's the biggest matchup I want to look at. That very first snap. Can Clemson's line hold up to Georgia's defensive line? If they can, and they can do it for 60 minutes, I think they've got a real good chance of winning that game. Now, if they can't, JT Daniels for Georgia, he's pretty good. I wouldn't call him, a Heisman candidate good, but I do think he's good enough to throw the football around for a little bit. He is very good, and he's a plug-in kind of fit quarterback, and I think he could do very well in the NFL in that kind of system. As of right now, I think the quarterback edge goes to Clemson, the defensive line edge goes to Clemson, but the defensive edge goes to Georgia. Offensive edge goes to Clemson. It's going to go back and forth, and whoever heads out the other is going to prevail in this matchup. But overall, very excited for it. I wish this matchup happened every year like it used to happen, but as of now, we can't get it but once every 10 years.
Gotcha. Well, I'm looking forward to it myself. You're the college football expert, so I trust what you say. I don't, I'm more of an NFL guy, but I'm rooting for Georgia all the way. Bryson, what's your thoughts on the game, and then we'll look into some other games.
I mean, like Preston said, Georgia's got a decent defense this year. JT Daniels, I'm excited with how he's going to play this year. Of course, I'm not a Georgia fan, but I'd like to see how he's going to play. Great defense. I like to see how DJ.
Yeah, you can't pronounce it. We know. Go ahead, but do you call him DJ?
DJ Ukulele. That's what I'm gonna call him this season. I'm really to see how he's going to step up. Trevor Lawrence leaving. I like to see how he's going to come with that offense. It's going to be real exciting for him. He could win Heisman. I think he's going to be pretty good this year.
Gotcha. Any other games in the top? There's some other games out there. Any other games you guys are excited to see?
Well, we're facing Alabama week 3. That's going to be a good one.
A huge
I just
matchup.
Don't know how our defense is.
Go ahead, Preston.
I think a really good matchup that I'm looking forward to, not because Bryson's here, not because I'm trying to, boost up his Florida Gators, but is that SEC East battle. Okay, it's going to come down to Florida and Georgia, like it usually does. There's no surprises there. Who's going to be the better team? Now, last year, who was the better team? I would probably have leaned towards Florida towards the the second half of the season.
I probably agree.
Who's to know what would have really happened in that LSU game if they hadn't thrown the shoe? Okay, but all that aside, this year that's the biggest matchup on the SEC side, on the East side at least, that I'm looking forward to. And then whoever plays that game and wins, I think that's your representative in Atlanta hosting Alabama. I'm excited to see those matchups because Florida is going to get the first taste of it. That was an amazing SEC championship game last year. Florida very well could have won that game. Okay, they had all the offensive power. Pitts was defense. Unstoppable. You couldn't guard him. They had no defense in that game, either team. But if they can have a little bit of that offensive power, and I know Pitts isn't there anymore, I think they have a very good way of beating Alabama in the regular season, possibly meeting up with them in Atlanta. And we've already seen the first part. Can we see it again in Atlanta? I'm excited. I think whoever loses that game their season's not over with. It's just like if Georgia loses to Clemson, their season's not over because they still got Florida. They still got a possible SEC championship game. For the SEC, the SEC's fine. It's whoever gets a regular season loss. If it's good, we're good.
Yeah, and Georgia's schedule's pretty. I think they can handle the schedule besides Florida and Clemson. I'm worried about, but I believe they can handle the rest of the teams out there. But any other games? Bryson, what were you mentioning about Alabama and Florida? Anything else you want to say on that?
I think it's going to be like Fred says, a good matchup. See them early in the year. Hopefully we can see them again. That would be awesome. Like I said, last year we lost to them by a touchdown. Just no defense that game. But like I said, we're going to have Kyle to Kyle no more. We're going to have Emory in the backfield. I am cannot wait to see that, how he's going to play under Damo and kind of bring hopefully that Tebow scheme back, But I'm excited. I think it's going to be a great matchup.
Any other games, guys? Ohio State. What's your thoughts on them?
Ohio State, Oregon. I'm excited to see what that's going to look like.
Well, they face Lakeside and Greenbrier every year, so I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. If they're not in the top 4, they're pretty much guaranteed a spot.
Gotcha. And I want to talk about Justin Fields too, but we'll do that more in the NFL podcast later on to see what he's going to do this season. But any other matchups you guys see out there that you're excited for, Preston?
I love rivalry week. I really do. Some schools have them not in the end of the season like most schools down here do. I love Texas-Oklahoma matchup. Sooner or later, that's going to be an SEC matchup. I love Michigan-Ohio State in the game. No matter who's the better team, usually it's very physical. I love watching the heatedness in the players. I love watching them want to go at each other every play. It's really nice to see. The competition-wise and the college football is way better than NFL. There's just matchups like that. There's just, it's better that they're also playing the Clemson and the South Carolina matchup. Last year, there was only conference play, and because they're in 2 different conferences, they don't get to play. That's one of the longest run rivalries in college football. So it's nice to see us to get to beat up on our little sister from the South.
I missed that part. What did you say about NFL? What did you say? What were you saying? I missed what you said. You said something.
I think the competition's better in college than it is in the NFL. I think players play more.
Hold on, elaborate.
Because
okay. You're saying competitions because the players play.
I think players play harder.
Let's get into that right now. What about the college players making money now, especially Bryce Young, who's already made bukus of money? What's your thoughts on that? And do you think it's going to make them play not as hard and make the competition less?
No, I do think it's good for college football because you're going to have athletes. There's always that one story that Tom Rinaldi used to always do where, a player came from nothing and, he had helped support his family. And those are the good stories, the feel-good stories of college football every year. And I don't think it hurts college football because players are getting paid. Let's be honest. Some players were getting paid under the table. This way they can actually do it legally. They can actually help their families out and be, prominent about it. I think it hurts the NFL, in my own opinion, more than it does college football. Because this is the way I was thinking about it. I was talking to a friend the other day. If I'm the best quarterback in college football and say all these deals and the school and everything, I'm making $10 million a year. Okay. I played 3.5 seasons, maybe 4 seasons. I gross 35 to close to $40 million. All right. I could go to the NFL and make even 3 times that amount of money, or I can retire at the age of 25 with $40 million to my name, and I don't have to take any more abuse. I can retire, do what I want. My family doesn't have to work. We're all comfortable. We're living life. We get to go to college football games every Saturday. At some point, I don't think the NFL is ever going to run out of players.
Hold on. Time out now. Time out. I understand, injury and stuff, getting the money, whatnot. That's good. Feeding your family, whatnot. I understand all that. But what about, it's the competition. You want to see them go on to the NFL, and you don't want them to retire after college making all that money. You want them to go on the NFL and compete. What about the competition side of it?
And I'm not saying that's going to happen often. All I'm saying was some players are going to take the money and not have to continue to play. Some players who know, they've made enough money. They've got other things in life because there's a lot of players, and they'll sit there and they'll tell you after the games or when they retire, I only played for a paycheck because I didn't get paid in college. Now, I'm not by any means saying that half of the players are not going to go to the NFL. I'm just saying you're going to have players who are just not going to want to play because they've made enough money. They don't need to do anything else. By no means am I saying that half of your stars in the NFL are not going to end up going to, or in college are going to end up going to the NFL. By no means is that what I'm saying. I'm just saying I would suspect you're going to have a couple players that would not want to have to go to the NFL.
Why maybe some role players,
Yeah. I'm not by no means saying that's going to happen.
Yeah, maybe some role players or whatever, or maybe been good in college and weren't quite as good in the NFL. Maybe they start off in the NFL and not quite as good. Maybe they just retire right away. I see what you're saying. Okay. Bryson, what's your thoughts on, college players being able to make money by themselves now?
I like the idea, and I also don't like the idea. I just don't want the players to start getting that mindset. I got the money. Why do I need to play? That's their dream, get recruited, playing 4 years of college, walking across that stage, getting drafted by a team, that's their whole dream, I don't think it's going to change most players' mindsets, like competition wise, because they are trying to compete to get in, to an NFL team. I mean, I think there's ups and downs of it, but I just hope players don't get that money hungry, mindset.
Gotcha. So, yeah, let's look at the player side of it. We're going to go back to talking about the season, this upcoming season. Any Heisman predictions? You can even look at bets or anything. Any Heisman predictions you guys have on the season, or guys you think that'll be competing for the Heisman Trophy this year? Preston, who do you think?
If DJ stays healthy, I think he's got a real good chance. It's pretty much a quarterback award for the most part. You're going to have a couple outliers that are going to be like wide receivers or possibly like a running back, but it's a quarterback award. I think DJ Uiagalelei out of Clemson could do a really good thing if he is able to throw for a couple thousand yards, have a standout season. Say he does really good versus his marquee matchups versus Georgia, Florida State. Schools like that. If he throws the ball really well and limits the interceptions, I think he's going to be there. I think the quarterback out of Alabama, Bryce Young, I think he's going to be able to be there as well. I mean, he's got ample amount of receivers to throw to. I mean, let's just be honest. They've got they can pull anybody in the country if they want to. So they've got enough players for him to throw the ball to. Whoever running back they've got is going to be good. Say Georgia's quarterback, if he does good versus Clemson and they run the table, or he's very competitive, he can be there. Also from Clemson, Justin Ross is coming back from injury. And if you remember in the playoffs a couple years ago versus Alabama, he had a couple freakishly good catches also versus Notre Dame. If he stays competitive, he stays healthy, and is able to have, a great season, he could be also ending up in New York. But as of now, those are my picks. But, every week, you're going to have players step up from all over the country, and it just takes them to be that guy. Spencer Rattler from Oklahoma could do really well. I mean, everybody's
I think
saying
he's the
next
favorite
thing
right
since the next best thing is sliced bread. I think either him or DJ Uiagalelei.
Yeah, I think Bryson pulled up something, and he was.
Yeah, they got Spencer right now. At number one. My opinion, I think DJ Ukulele. I think he's probably going to get it. My opinion. Like Preston said, it really is going to come down to the key matchups for him. You got to have more touchdowns than the interceptions. You got to play good against these key matchups. I think DJ. I mean, I saw JT Daniels maybe, but I don't see that really. But I think it's going to cut out between Spencer Rattler, Bryce Young, and DJ. Gotcha.
And you guys, before we're going to try to keep this podcast about 30 to 40 minutes, but what? Any early Final Four predictions for the season? Do you guys have any early thoughts or national championship predictions? Preston, you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, if you look at the preseason standings right now, I think that's probably going to end up being your Final Four. I like Alabama. I like Clemson. I think Oklahoma is going to run the table in the Big 12 like they've done a couple times, and I think Ohio State's going to come out of is going to come out of the Big Ten. I think it's going to be those four. You maybe switch around the where their seating's at. But I would not be surprised if those are the four we've had. I think we've had these four teams in the playoffs more often than not. I think these are probably going to be the teams again in this format for the four teams. They're going to be the ones who are going to be there in the playoffs.
Gotcha, Bryson.
I would agree with him. I would say, same top four. That 5 and 6 team, I could see. I think it's going to come down maybe Georgia, Florida, maybe not at 5 or 6, but one of them positions. Cincinnati, Cincinnati on the outside looking in. But I have to agree with Preston there. It's the same top four almost every year. Alabama, Clemson, guarantee. Ohio State, guarantee. I mean, like I said, they don't play nobody, But I think it's going to be Alabama, Clemson, Oklahoma, and Ohio State.
Gotcha. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the season? We're going to try. Like I said,
how about we predict our own teams? Like how you think your team's going to play this year? Like y'all's record.
Yeah. What do you think? Do you think they're going to go undefeated?
I think right now, if they beat Georgia in week 1, they'll go undefeated. Yeah. I don't see anybody on that schedule that really scares me. We kind of missed all the other really good teams in the ACC this year. We don't have North Carolina, no Miami. I mean, we've got a down Florida State. We play them every year. South Carolina's not that great. Wake Forest isn't that good. Georgia's just the only good team that we really have on our schedule. If we beat them, I would say, that we're going to go undefeated. I mean, I think the line, if you take it right now, I think is 11.5 wins for Clemson. And if they were able
you sure
to
you guys will beat Wake
not
Forest?
lose a game,
Are you sure you'll beat Wake Forest?
well, it's gonna be tough. It's pretty tough. I hear their cheerleaders are really good this year. I think that might help them, be more competitive. But I think it'll be a tough game, very physical. It'll come down to the fourth quarter, probably a kick or something like that, a field goal. Probably have the game around like 67-12. Clemson will win.
Gotcha. I'll say, I'll predict Georgia. I predict Georgia to lose one game. I'm hoping they don't go 10 and lose 2. But I predict them to lose one game. That's why I think they'll lose to either Clemson or they'll lose to Florida. But, I mean, they could obviously lose more. They could lose to Auburn, they could lose to Clemson, and they could lose to Florida. And, it could all go buku. And they could lose to Missouri and Kentucky. I mean, who knows with Georgia? You never know.
It's SEC.
Yeah.
And I this year I got Florida going around 10-2. 2 losses coming from Alabama and Kentucky for us. Every year, we play them. It's always a close game, Every year, it's always a battle in the churches when we face them. Like I said, it's SEC football, But yeah, I got us going 10-2.
Gotcha. Well, I think that's gonna wrap this one up. This is just the season preview. We're gonna do a breakdown each matchup each week for probably starting September, I believe 2nd. I think the first week September 2nd or September 4th, because we're not gonna do week 0. We're not doing them small schools. I think Ohio State plays that Thursday,
Growtown,
the 4th. Yeah, well, no, they play Indiana. Indiana's not. I mean, they're going to beat them, obviously, but you never know. I mean,
I think Indiana's good. Indiana could be a sleeper in the Big Ten.
Okay, we'll probably do one, early that week, and then talk about the whole week 1, and we're going to try to do one each week for college football, and just break down each matchup, maybe break down, a bet we like or some, plays we like for any type of bets or anything like that, and we'll give our top 4 each week. What are our thoughts on the top 4 for each week, and Heisman who's the Heisman right now for each week. But yeah, any other thoughts before we head out, guys?
I'm just glad that college football's coming back. I love those Saturday mornings, waking up at 9, watching college game day. I cannot wait.
Yeah, and Preston and Bryson, they're mainly the college football guys. We're also going to do an NFL podcast after this called the NFL Weekly Matchup. We're going to do the season preview and breakdown, for each week for NFL matchups. And I'm thinking about even doing daily fantasy picks or fantasy picks for each week for on Saturdays for YouTube or maybe TikTok or even Apple Podcasts, maybe possibly. But Preston, do you have any thoughts before we head out? He's going to be here each week, like I said.
Just excited to get going. Ready for week 1 to get here. Ready for the big matchups. Just ready for the rotation of college football every week to kind of be the Saturday thing again. All
right. Well, we'll be back, like I said, week 1 for college football about a week before. So we'll try to post these every Wednesday or Thursday. So appreciate it. See y'all later. Peace.
Thank y'all.